The waiter looked at me like I was lost. I wasn't. I knew exactly where I was. What I didn't know was why my wife was sitting across from another man, sipping sangria like it was the most normal Tuesday of her life. Her laugh echoed through the glass walls of the cafe. That laugh, the one she hadn't used around me in months. I stood outside like a moron, barely breathing, the reflection of her smile bouncing back at me through the window like a taunt. I must have looked insane, shirt half wrinkled from work, phone in one hand, pastry bag in the other, because yes, I was still holding the stupid treat I picked up for her. I didn't walk in. I didn't storm the table or scream like those people in movies. I backed away, found a bench across the street, sat down, and just stared. 5 minutes. 10. 15. Long enough to watch her lean in, touch his hand, brush a crumb off his lip. That's when I knew. This wasn't new. This wasn't some harmless flirtation or weird misunderstanding. This was routine. I opened the pastry bag, dug out the tiny napkin tucked under the cinnamon roll, and scribbled with the cheap pen I always kept in my jacket. For words. That's all I could manage. Don't come home tonight. I crossed the street like I was in a trance, walked into the cafe, and dropped the napkin right in front of her drink. She blinked once. That was it. No gasp. No guilt. She didn't even flinch when she saw me. The guy beside her looked confused. I think he thought I was a waiter. I turned and walked out before my legs gave out. I wish I could say she chased me, or called, or even texted, but she didn't. Instead, she did something so vile, so deeply twisted, that I genuinely started wondering if I ever knew her at all. I sat in my car for nearly 40 minutes after leaving the cafe. Engine off. No music. Just silence, except for the occasional ping of a text that I refused to check. I didn't want to see her name pop up on my screen. I didn't want an apology. Not a lie. Not even an explanation. I just wanted to vanish. Or maybe rewind time. Or maybe explode. I don't know. When I finally made it home, I couldn't bring myself to go inside. I just sat in the driveway, gripping the steering wheel like I was trying to twist it off. That house, it used to be everything. Now it just looked like a stage I didn't know I'd been acting on, in a play someone else had written behind my back. Around 8 p.m., I finally unlocked the front door. I wasn't sure if she'd come back, if she even read the note. The lights were off. Everything was quiet, too quiet. But then I walked into the kitchen, and there it was. She had come home. She left the cafe, ignored the napkin message, and beat me here. But not to talk, not to cry, not even to fight. She had decorated. I swear to God, there were candles lit all around the living room. Our wedding song was playing. Yes, the same one we danced to barefoot in my uncle's backyard. And in the middle of the table was a bottle of wine we'd been saving for something special. And next to it, the pastry bag I had dropped on the sidewalk outside the cafe. She'd picked it up, like some twisted souvenir. Then she walked in from the hallway wearing that dress. The green one she hadn't worn in years. The one I bought for our anniversary that she once said made her feel too old. And she smiled at me. Smiled. I froze. She stepped forward, reached for my hand, and said in this soft, syrupy voice, "Let's not do this tonight, Elliot. Let's just forget everything for one night." I couldn't breathe. I think I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insane. She had turned the whole thing into some kind of fantasy scene, like I was supposed to fall into her arms and pretend I hadn't just watched her flirt with another man in public. She tilted her head, still smiling, and whispered, "You saw him, didn't you?" I didn't answer. She let out this sigh, like I was the one making things difficult. "He's just someone I talk to, okay? You're so dramatic." She tried to kiss me. I stepped back. She paused, finally dropping the act, and her face shifted, slowly, from soft and fake concern to cold and irritated, like I'd ruined her perfect little performance. That's when she said the line that made my stomach twist. "If you really want to talk, you should have come to me before stalking me like a creep." Stalking. That's what she called it. And I swear, in that moment, something broke in me that's never fully healed. But the worst wasn't the lie. The worst was what she did next, and who else was involved. I wish I could say I stayed calm, that I kept my dignity. But the moment she threw the word stalking at me like I was some deranged outsider instead of her husband, I cracked. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, sweating, shaking, heart pounding so loud it drowned out the music still playing from the speaker behind her. I wanted to ask her one question. Just one. But instead, my eyes drifted over her shoulder, and that's when I saw it. There was a second wine glass on the counter. Not the one she poured for me. No, that one was still empty, untouched. This other one, it had lipstick on it. And the worst part? It wasn't her shade. It was this deep maroon color, darker than anything she ever wore, and I knew, instantly, what that meant. Someone else had been in our house. Not earlier today. Recently. Someone else had sat in my kitchen, drinking our wine, probably laughing with her the same way she laughed at that cafe. My legs almost gave out. Who was here? I asked. My voice sounded so hollow it scared even me. She turned, looked at the glass, and instead of panicking, she rolled her eyes. Are you serious right now? I didn't answer. She walked over, picked up the glass, and rinsed it in the sink like she was washing a cereal bowl. No explanation. No guilt. Nothing. Just humming to herself while I stood there trying to process the sheer insanity of this moment. When she turned back around, she was smirking. I knew you'd make this weird, she said. You always do. You can't just let things be normal. Normal? That was the word that broke me. Normal? Was it normal to gaslight your husband after getting caught? Was it normal to throw wine parties with strangers in his kitchen? Was it normal to be so eerily calm after someone drops a note saying don't come home? That's when I said it. This marriage is done, Nadia. You burned it. She laughed. Laughed. Not a nervous giggle. Not a please don't leave laugh. A full-on, casual, sitcom laugh like I'd just delivered a punchline. And then she leaned in, whispered like she was confiding some juicy gossip. Good. Now we don't have to pretend anymore. Pretend. I don't know how I stayed standing. My knees were glass. My chest felt like it had a fist clenching around it. But I didn't cry. I didn't break. Not yet. I just backed out of that room, numb, dizzy, and made it to the door. That's when I noticed the overnight bag near the stairs. Her passport on top. Her phone buzzing next to it. She was planning to leave. She already had one foot out the door before I even knew she was gone. And I hadn't even seen the worst part yet. Because that passport, it wasn't hers. It was someone else's. With a different last name. And a photo that nearly made me vomit. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. I picked up the passport because something about it looked off. The color, the wear, the fact that it was just sitting there on top of her neatly packed weekend bag. But when I opened it, that's when I felt the bottom of my world tilt. It was my face. My photo. But the name wasn't mine. It was close. Too close. First name the same. Elliot. But the last name? Carrington. That's not me. I've never been a Carrington. I don't even know a Carrington. But the passport looked real. Government seal, barcode, issue date, everything. Same photo I took 3 years ago for a license renewal, but cropped differently. My stomach flipped. Is this a joke? I asked, holding it up. Nadia didn't answer. She was across the room now, calmly taking off her earrings, like I hadn't just uncovered what looked like an identity theft plot unfolding in my own house. Nadia. My voice was sharper this time. Why do you have a fake passport with my face on it? She finally looked at me, and the coldness in her eyes made my skin crawl. It's not fake, she said, like she was daring me to challenge her. It's just a backup. For the trip. What trip? She smirked, shrugged. Does it matter now? I should have left right then. I should have called someone. A lawyer, a cop, anyone. But I couldn't move. I was still trying to fit all the pieces together, and none of them made sense. Who were you planning to leave with? She just stared. I took another look at the passport. Inside the travel pouch were 2 tickets, one international, one domestic. And both were booked under the name Elliot Carrington and guest. Departure in 3 days. Destination, a country we once joked about visiting, the kind with no extradition treaty and cash-only beach resorts. Suddenly, everything clicked. The second wine glass. The secret meetings. The complete lack of remorse. This wasn't just an affair. This was an exit strategy. I was never supposed to find out. And judging by the way she kept glancing at her buzzing phone, someone else was waiting for her confirmation. Maybe even in on it. Watching. Waiting. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I took her phone and walked straight into the bathroom, locked the door, and began going through her messages. I only got through 3 threads before I had to sit down. One of them was titled Plan B, Backup Passport. Another? EC, goes quiet equals green light. And the third was a group chat with 4 people. 4 people. And every single one of them was talking about me. I must have stared at that group chat for 10 full minutes, just trying to make sense of the names. None of them were saved as contacts, just numbers. But the messages were recent, active, alive. And all of them referenced me. Not just me as a husband. Not just Elliot, the boring, over-accommodating, invisible husband who apparently never saw this coming. No, they were talking about versions of me. Scripts. Scenarios. Phrases like, rehearse the story again, and delete all trace from his cloud. I scrolled, and scrolled, and there it was, a photo of my ID, front and back, taken without my knowledge. A scanned version of my signature. A digital form filled out under the name Elliot Carrington, with my birth date, my face, my blood type, and a new address in a state I've never set foot in. Another message popped in live as I watched. Final draft ready. He hasn't figured out the safe deposit key yet. I dropped the phone. Literally dropped it on the tile floor. My ears were ringing. My mouth was dry. My heart was somewhere between hyperventilation and cardiac arrest. I wasn't being cheated on. I wasn't being replaced. I was being replicated. Replaced by a version of myself that someone else could control, use, maybe even cash out on. I stumbled out of the bathroom, holding the phone like it was radioactive. Nadia was standing in the hallway with her arms crossed. No panic on her face. Just mild annoyance, like she was waiting for a package that hadn't arrived yet. You shouldn't have read that, she said. I couldn't speak. I could barely stand. You think I didn't know what you were up to? I choked out. She rolled her eyes. Elliot, you don't even know what you're up to most of the time. That's when I snapped. No more riddles. No more games. Tell me right now, what the hell is going on? Who are those people? What are you doing with a passport that has my face and someone else's name on it? She stepped closer, calm, methodical, and she said, word for word, you've been sitting on money you didn't even know existed. You're a loose end. This was just the cleanest way to tie you off. That's when I realized it wasn't about love. It was never about love. It wasn't even about another man. This was about removal. And before I could even process that sentence, her phone buzzed again, this time with a location drop and a 3-word message. Green light confirmed. I backed away like she was radioactive. Her tone wasn't angry or even guilty. It was clinical, like she was giving instructions to a contractor about how to tear down a wall. You're a loose end, she'd said. And my brain kept repeating those words over and over. Loose ends are cleaned up, cut off, silenced. I wasn't just some clueless husband caught in an affair. I was a problem she needed to remove. I don't know what part of me kicked in, fight, flight, whatever. But I ran. Not out the door. Not into the street like some dramatic movie scene. I ran upstairs. There's a small fireproof safe in the back of our closet. Well, my closet, apparently. I hadn't opened it in over a year. But she had mentioned something about a key in those messages. I yanked it out from under the shelves, nearly breaking a lamp in the process, and jammed in the code I hadn't used since we bought it. It opened. Inside wasn't just our passports, old insurance papers, and boring retirement folders. There was another envelope. Thick, unmarked, taped shut. Inside that envelope, a set of USB drives. 3 of them, each one labeled with my name and a different year, 2022, 2023, 2024. My blood ran cold. I plugged the most recent one into my laptop with trembling hands. I didn't even care if it was a trap at that point. I needed to see. And what I saw was terrifying. There were folders filled with screenshots of my emails, even the ones from old deleted accounts. Every banking password I'd ever changed. Recordings of phone calls between me and my accountant, between me and my doctor. Dozens of spreadsheets tracking movements of funds between different banks, most of which I didn't even remember authorizing. There were accounts in my name I had never opened. A transfer from one of them had just gone through this week. To an offshore account, under the name Elliot Carrington. I wasn't being cheated on. I was being cloned and drained. Quietly. Over time. Digitally. Financially. Psychologically. Piece by piece. And worst of all, Nadia had help. She wasn't smart enough to do this alone. Someone, maybe multiple people, had been guiding her through it. Grooming the system. Exploiting my blind trust. I took out my phone and snapped photos of everything. Every screen. Every drive. Every folder. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but some primal instinct told me to start collecting proof, because I had just stumbled into something far bigger than a love triangle. That's when I heard the front door open downstairs. Not slam. Not creak. Open. Softly. Like someone had a key. Nadia was still upstairs, standing outside the bedroom now, staring at me as I sat on the floor, surrounded by open envelopes and the digital skeletons of my life. She didn't ask what I found. She just smiled, cold and wide, and said, "You really shouldn't be here right now." I didn't wait to ask questions. I bolted down the stairs with my heart in my throat, my fingers still gripping one of the USB drives like it was a weapon. I didn't even know what I planned to do with it. Chuck it at someone's head, slam it in a laptop, and yell, "Gotcha?" I was operating on pure adrenaline now. I stopped cold halfway down the staircase. He was there. The man from the cafe. Same smug face. Same tan leather jacket. Same calm demeanor, like he'd just dropped by to borrow sugar from a neighbor. Except this time, he wasn't smiling. He was standing in my living room like he owned it, one hand casually resting in his pocket, the other holding his phone, mid-text, like this was just another step in a business meeting. Nadia came down behind me, slowly, with that same eerie calm in her voice. "Elliot, this is Lucas," she said. "He's helping me clean up the mess." Clean up the mess. That's what she called me now. I stood there on the steps, stunned, while this guy looked me over like I was inventory. And then, and I still can't believe this, he pulled out a folder. Just like that. Like this was a boardroom pitch. "You're sitting on money your grandfather left in an inactive trust. You didn't even know it existed, did you?" he asked. I didn't answer. He continued. "2 years ago, Nadia contacted us. Said you were checked out. Depressed. Easy to manage. She thought you'd sign whatever she put in front of you. And you did, Elliot. Every time." I felt like I was going to vomit. "I don't understand," I said, voice trembling. "You were going to what? Steal it all? Vanish?" Lucas gave a half smile. "Not vanish. Reassign. The Elliot Carrington identity was just the easiest way to move the money without triggering alerts. But now you've gotten nosy." I looked at Nadia. She didn't look away. No guilt. No second thoughts. Just a blank stare and perfectly steady breathing. "You drugged me, didn't you?" I whispered. "Those pills last year. The sleepwalking, the memory gaps. You weren't worried. You were testing how much I'd remember." She gave the faintest nod. "And you remembered too much." Lucas sighed, like he was tired of the conversation. "Listen, we can do this the quiet way, or—" I didn't let him finish. I ran. Out the side door. Across the lawn. I didn't grab shoes, didn't grab keys, just bolted like my life depended on it, because by now, I was starting to think it did. I heard footsteps behind me, but I didn't stop. I made it 2 blocks barefoot, dodging cars and dragging the USB drive with me, until I ducked behind a dumpster behind a closed gas station and called the one person I thought I'd never need. My brother, Ryan. We hadn't spoken in 4 years. But when he answered, groggy and annoyed, I said 7 words I never imagined saying out loud. "I think my wife's trying to erase me." Ryan didn't even ask questions. As soon as I told him where I was, he was already in his truck. He lived 2 towns over, and he still made it in under 20 minutes. I stayed hidden, crouched behind a dumpster like a hunted animal, replaying every moment of my marriage through a new lens. Every lie, every fake smile, every time she touched my face like she cared, and all the while, she was preparing to cash me out like a used car. When Ryan pulled up, I nearly collapsed into his arms. I showed him everything. The USB drive, the screenshots on my phone, the group messages, the fake passport. His face went pale, and I knew right then, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't being dramatic. I'd been methodically dismantled, and if I hadn't walked into that cafe by accident, I might have disappeared without anyone asking a single question. Ryan drove me straight to a friend of his, a guy he knew from high school who now worked in cybercrime investigations. We didn't go to the police station right away. We went to the guy's house. Unofficial. Off the books. He plugged in the USB, read through the files, and let out a low whistle. "This is big," he said. "Way bigger than just identity theft." Turns out, Lucas wasn't just a smooth-talking sociopath. He had a record, sealed in 2 states. But Ryan's friend dug up enough to confirm what we feared. He'd done this before. Not with passports, but with insurance fraud, fake trusts, manipulated wills. Nadia had tapped into something much darker than I realized. The next morning, I filed for an emergency protection order. Ryan stayed by my side through every form, every affidavit. And when the detective finally came to the door, I handed him everything. The drives, the messages, the passport. All of it. They moved fast after that. The moment investigators started probing financial records, the house of cards collapsed. Nadia and Lucas had left a trail they thought was invisible. But arrogance makes people sloppy. Within a week, both were detained at an airport. She was caught trying to use the fake ID. He had a flash drive in his carry-on filled with stolen data. They thought I'd roll over and disappear. Instead, I documented everything. Court followed, of course. Depositions. Investigations. But by some miracle, and I really mean that, I got out of it with my identity intact. The trust my grandfather left? Frozen? Yes, but protected. Every cent they tried to siphon was flagged and locked down. Their little scheme had too many fingerprints on it. And me? I moved out. Started over. Quietly, slowly, and carefully. I won't pretend like I'm fine. I'm not. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night thinking someone's in the room, watching me. I check my bank apps 3 times a day. I don't trust easily. But I am healing. A few months ago, I started volunteering at a local legal aid group, helping other people untangle scams, fraud, and abusive financial situations. I guess I just wanted to be someone I didn't have when I needed help. Nadia? Last I heard, she took a plea deal. Lucas is still waiting for trial. But me? I'm still here. I survived. And somehow, after all of it, I've never felt more real.